Don't look now, Atkinson, but you have someone new following you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good day to you. Hello, Hicks. Hello, Dark Angel. And Death Facto. Thank you for that follow. Hello. Welcome in. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the Shade Network. Brought to you by Atkinson 1020. How's everybody doing? Y'all doing good? I hope. Let's see. I lost my Stream Raiders. Where did it go? Hold on. Oh, there it is. Got it. False alarm. False alarm. We are okay. Good, how are you? I'm not too bad, actually. Thank you for asking. Second guessing wearing pants today, right now, because I'm kind of hot in here, so I may end up taking a pause and changing into some shorts. But today's going to be a little bit different of a stream. I do have my hot tea, because I'm still a little bit, whatever is going on here. But the voice today is feeling pretty good. Yesterday, I sounded like I just woke up from a 2-year nap. But today is better, so I don't know what's going on. I just live here, Anyway, we're going to read today, like usual. But my wife and son are actually going out on their own little adventure, so I'm going to be streaming for a bit longer. So after the read, I'm going to switch over to the truck simulator game, American Truck Simulator. So yeah, I have there's this event going on in that game, and I have 2 deliveries to make before 6 p.m. my time, Central Time. So, gotta make sure we get those done. And then I'm gonna buy a new truck, and we're gonna hire a driver, and we're gonna start making some money off of the driver, hopefully, if he's not, or he or she isn't a complete dope. So we'll see. Hicks says, I'm working on a project, but I'm here. We'll be lurking. What project are you working on, Hicks? Do tell. Tell all. And how was your Netflix binge that you mentioned to me? How did that go? A success, I hope. Lots of relaxing enjoyment. Oh, and we have a puzzle, by the way. So, I have a command for it. If you just type in !puzzle like I did, it'll give you the link. So you can do the puzzle. Community puzzle. It's my version of what I think a pixie house would look like. So I'm trying to do puzzles that are themed based on our book, and that's kind of hard to do. So just stretch the imagination with me just a little bit, and you'll be okay. And of course, we have Stream Raiders. So let's start off with a simple little battle here. Nothing too crazy. There's one enemy. You just need a melee unit, and we'll be good to go. So this shouldn't take too long. Just play some units, and you'll be fine. Okay. I took the dog for a walk before streaming today. And I gotta say, that was like a terrible idea. I started having crazy chest pains. It was shooting down my arm and into my fingers. It sucked. Zebra says, lurking while I drive. Okay, sounds good. Where are you headed to, Zebra? Don't text and drive, though. Just answer out loud. We'll hear you. Hopefully you get there safely. My B.com just told me to refresh. So, for those that are wondering what the heck I just talked about, I am essentially mining crypto. It's invite only, but all I have to do is restart the clock once every 24 hours and it will keep continuing to mine cryptocurrency for me. So, yeah. Oh, and I need to text my wife too. She has something planned for me on Monday, tomorrow. Hold on, sorry. Okay, text sent. She's like, hey, you can work until 11 a.m. tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. Why? What's going on? She's like, we're gonna do something to celebrate your birthday, and we're gonna do it tomorrow. I was like, does my boss know about this? Like, I didn't schedule myself off. I'm supposed to be in the office. And she's like, don't worry about it. I was like, you already talked to him, didn't you? She's like, yep, don't worry about it. And then I just realized I got a text reminder. I have, so if you're in my Discord, there's a side hustle, side job channel that I have. And one of those is called Respondent. And I had scheduled myself for a 2 p.m. interview for, it's like a 30-minute interview, but I'm going to earn like $50 from it. So I was just reminding her that, hey, that's happening tomorrow. So. So yeah, that's a thing. So when is the birthday? My actual birthday isn't until January 31st. I'll still be streaming on Sunday the 30th, because the 31st is a Monday. So we'll still do our normal afternoon stream on Sunday. I'm not doing anything big and fancy for it. It's just going to be a normal stream. I'm not really the kind of person that's going to go hog wild about a birthday stream. It's just not my flair, you know. I don't want to make it more than what our stream will usually is, because as much as this stream is about me in a sense, it's about you guys more so, because I'm here to provide a calm, cozy setting that you guys can enjoy. That's why I've got the puzzle. That's why I've got Stream Raiders. That's why I've got the Pokemon thing going. That's why I'm reading a book, you know. So the goal is to give you all something to just relax into. So I don't want to make Sunday the 30th, the day before my birthday, kind of a big hoopla, if that makes sense. So, Aquarian's rule, indeed. That's cool that your birthday's on the 21st, Zebra. That's awesome. My wife's is a few days before mine. My brother's is 2 days before mine. My son is the same day as mine. So, my family is all about the Aquarius. So there you go. Alright, before my throat gets any worse, I think it's time to take off my sunglasses, which are available down below my About section from the Shade Network store, by the way. Shameless plug. Let's pop those aside. Oh, and that the shameless plug continues. My merch store t-shirt should be ready tomorrow. I'm putting the final touches on it, and I'll be posting it once it's done in Discord. I'm very excited. So, but for now, let's get excited about a book, shall we? So before I start reading, let's go into the recap and remind ourselves what happened last time. So, when we were last in Pixie Dust, we read chapters 11 and 12. And in a nutshell, Jane is really struggling with school and life as a whole. You know, the events that took place with the festival dance, and from there, the continuous torture and bullying and just undermining of who she is continues throughout these next two chapters. She can't get away from it. There's not a chance. She can't run from this. It got so bad that Betty Ann, who is the real, like, you know, she's the person behind it all, she used a fire charm spell and put a ring of fire around Jane inside a classroom. She couldn't put it out because she didn't have her own charms to do so. A teacher had to come in and do it, and then blamed her for setting the fire, as if she would do that to herself. So yeah, she ended up, because of this spell, being sent home early. Thankfully, Dr. Tweedle, who is the school headmaster who got her into the school, felt really bad because he didn't want to send her home early because he knew what he was sending her to. But it was the only way to not show favoritism and deal out some sort of, you know, punishment. So she had to do her midterm exams early, all at once, and then she was sent home. When she got home, she was immediately put to work. I mean, immediately. She didn't stop working until it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and then she basically passed out. on a really crappy mattress. So Jane's having a bad time right now. She is not having a good life whatsoever. Stunt Papa, hello. Stunt Papa, the puzzle is up. The puzzle is running. There's the link. Please feel free to join in if you wish. I'm going to see if my tea is cooled down just enough for me to start sipping on it. Oh, that's nice and hot. Oh, that's hot. Yep. Death Facto says, me and another dude are slowly forming the puzzle. Fantastic. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Death Facto, if you're comfortable, where are you from? How did you find this stream? I'm super curious. I'd love to know where people came from. And, you know, Twitch is an amazing network of people, and it wouldn't surprise me if you and I were part of somebody else's community, and that's, you know, that's how it all came to be. So definitely curious. Tell me all about it. You're from Europe? Awesome. I was born and raised in the UK myself, so now I live in the United States. So yeah, it looks like you and Jen are in the puzzle right now. But yeah, feel free to join, anyone. You found it from advertising in Gentle Fox's ASMR. Perfect. Aw, David. Thank you for that 4-month subscription. Super awesome of you, sir. Hello, how are you? Yep, Gentle Fox. So, I helped co-found the USG, the United Storytellers Group, and Gentle Fox, at my invitation, was kind to join us. So he is part of the USG community as well. How you feeling, King? Getting any better? Yeah, I think I am starting to get better. It's taken a long time, but we're getting there. And you're just in time, David. We're just about to start. I just did the reading recap. We are on chapter 13. And the title of chapter 13 is The Forever Slave. Alright. Let me just make sure. Nope, I don't want that. Alright. Here we go. Loud noises woke me from my sleep, and my head throbbed. My eyes didn't want to open. "Get up! Get up!" said a voice that sounded like Marie's. Mary B. Music, hi, welcome in. Exclamation point puzzle if you want to get in on it. I rolled over and buried my head in the pillow. "Get up now, you insolent girl. There is much to be done, and I will not tolerate your laziness," Marie shouted. This time I lifted my head in surprise, since Marie never entered the attic. She towered over my little mattress, and her figure blocked out the door. I felt closed in with no escape. Her steel gray eyes stared down at me, making my heart jolt in my chest. "You have much to do. Get up," Marie stated. Thanks, listening in the car. Perfect. Audiobook in the car. Love it. Quickly, I jumped up from my bed, afraid of Marie and what she would do. I tried to rub the sleep from my eyes as I stood in front of her, but every part of my body felt heavy. "Follow me. I have a list of things for you to do," Marie said as she sharply turned from the room. It would have been foolish not to follow, so, in a daze, I went out after her. "You'll start in the kitchen, and make sure everything's spotless. I will not have my guests' food prepared in disgusting conditions. Then you'll move into the dining room. followed by the parlor, great hall, and ballroom. How big is this house? Everything must be spotless and look perfect. This party is very important. By no means will you mess up this event for me or Emily, Marie said. I didn't ask why the party was just as important to Emily. I assumed Marie was throwing the party so Emily would be introduced to the richest men in the area. If I would have asked, she'd have commented on my lack of intelligence. It was better just to listen when Marie talked than to ask questions. Now, once you're finished with these 5 rooms, I want you to clean the carpets upstairs in case anyone should wander up there. The bathrooms must be cleaned, of course, taking priority of the ones downstairs, since it's most likely the ones guests will use. When you've finished with the indoor chores, you will help Robert in the stables for the rest of the afternoon. If these chores aren't complete by dinner, then you'll have to skip it. I'll be finding things for you to do as they come to mind, she said, turning to glare at me. As if in a daydream, I followed her to the kitchen. She handed me a rag and a pail and then left the room. I'd never been so tired as I stared around the kitchen. Marie had woken me at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had only been asleep 2 hours. Looking around, my eyes closed as I thought about the long list laid before me. Thankfully...
Don't look now, Atkinson, but you have someone new following you.
Ah, my slicks. Thank you for that follow. Welcome in. Get comfortable. Have a seat. Or a couch. You know, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. Thankfully, I always carried garnet powder for a quick, complete charm. So, I cast the charm over me and got started. Within 20 minutes, the kitchen was sparkling. The work I completed would have taken 2 hours without the charm. A half hour after Marie left me, she was back to examine the kitchen. I froze as she scrutinized everything. I was pretending to polish the sink again, so I wouldn't have to look at her. She seemed completely surprised by the state of the kitchen. I see you've been busy, she commented, and I wonder if she would actually praise me for what I had accomplished. Instead, I was punished. It seems like you cleaned too quickly. Do this room over. I'm not completely sure that it's clean. Could she not see how the counter shined? Did she miss the spotless tile floor? Could she be that evil to make me stay in the kitchen when I could be completing other things and saving time? Yes, of course. She could do so without batting an eyelash. She swished her gray skirts as she retreated from the kitchen to leave me staring, speechless. I sagged, defeated, at the sink and slowly started running the rag over everything again. All I could think of was the time being wasted and the longer I would have to suffer. Another half hour passed. The sun not yet breaking the horizon line, and she was back to inspect for a second time. Holding my breath, I hoped she was satisfied this time. She slowly nodded her head and then ushered me into the dining room. She disappeared again while I cleaned, but I used small amounts of the quick, complete charm in case Marie would become suspicious of my fast-paced work. Thankfully, after an hour, when she inspected the dining room, I was allowed to move into the great hall. Here, I couldn't even chance using the charm. Too many people passed through this area. On my hands and knees, I scrubbed the floor until it shone. I'd almost completed the floor when Emily and Preston came stomping in from their Saturday morning walk. It looked like Preston had made it his purpose to trample in every mud puddle, for when he came in, his boots were covered. Emily also had mud on her lining of her cloak. "Don't!" I cried out as they mercilessly started across the clean floor. "I'm sorry, Jane. Did you say something?" Emily asked concedingly as she strode toward me. Oh dear. Whew, that's hot. But it's so good. Didn't hear you, Preston shouted as he purposefully ran in circles. He knew exactly what he was doing. He would be 14 soon, not 5. "Could you please stop?" I asked slowly and quietly. "Stop what? This?" Emily asked as she started to pace the floor in front of me. "Please, I just spent 2 hours cleaning it," I weakly stated. "Are we getting mud on the floor?" Preston asked with a twinkle in his green eyes. His fire-red hair glinted in the rising sun through the windows. "What does it matter?" Emily asked. "You have all day. You have no life. So why would you be worried? Sometimes I forget you exist since Mother let you attend that school. Why she has allowed you, I don't understand. If it would have been my choice, I wouldn't have let you go. Why should you be educated when all you need to know is how to clean? Which you obviously don't know how, since the floor looks awful," she said, laughing. "Come along, Preston. Let's get something to eat, since it will be a while for Jane to bring it up to us." She stomped off toward the kitchen, with Preston following in unnecessary circles. Anyone building the puzzle on a phone? My iPhone is annoying with these pieces. Yes, I imagine the puzzle building would be quite difficult on a phone. If you have a desktop or a laptop, maybe even a tablet, that might go a little easier for you. I hung my head as I stared at the dirt-covered floor. Why hadn't I anticipated something like this? Just like their mother, they intended to punish me. We are struggling with the sky right now. That's okay. I always, when I'm building a puzzle, I just like to try and find all the border pieces first, and just build the frame. Just build all the edges, and then you can start filling in the middle. You can't zoom in or see the pieces on the end of the screen. Yes, that is something that this jigsaw puzzle thing doesn't do quite well. Zooming is not that great. Just like their mother, they intended to punish me. It was no use fighting for justice around here, I thought as I dipped the rag back in the water and started again. Maybe I would have my revenge someday. It was almost 10 o'clock when I finished the great hall floor. I went into the parlor next and quickly dusted it, since I'd done it the night before. Then, I dragged the mop and broom into the ballroom. Back and forth I went across the wooden dance floor until it looked perfect. I just hoped Emily and Preston wouldn't visit this area with their muddy boots. The rugs upstairs needed a beating, which took longer since I had hung them up in the side yard. Finally, with my arms aching, I moved on to the bathrooms, using the charm now that I was away from prying eyes. I was very relieved when Marie accepted my work in the bathrooms. But the next assignment was physically worse. I walked across the grounds towards the barn to help Robert. He looked up when I entered, and his eyes lit up when he smiled. His auburn hair had grown longer since the last time I'd seen him. "Hello," I said, walking into a stall to pick up a shovel. "I see Marie has sent you to assist me," Robert said, shaking his head. "A woman shouldn't be assigned a man's job." "Don't worry about me. I'm used to it," I commented as I began working next to him. Unfortunately, Robert didn't leave the barn, so I had to do work without the charm. My arms burned every time I lifted the shovel, but I wasn't going to stop, no matter how much pain I was in. I was very determined to complete my tasks and show Marie that I wouldn't be easily defeated. I caught Robert staring at me from the corner of my eye. He seemed to work harder when he noticed my determination. I was thankful that the barn was warm, for it had started snowing when I glanced outside. Robert finally broke the silence after a few hours. "How have you been?" "Do you want me to tell you the truth or a lie?" I asked. As of this week, my life had been pretty rough. "Why don't you tell me the truth?" Robert said as he bent down to continue shoveling. "I've had the worst week of my life," I started. "I was sent home early from the academy. I had to take all my exams in one day, and Marie has been making me work since I arrived. I haven't had a rest," I said. Robert stopped shoveling and gave me a strange look. "What are exams like in a school that teaches etiquette?" I looked at him, confused by his question, and then I remembered the lie I had told. Of course, Robert would think that. Quickly, I tried to think of a good answer. "Oh, you know, the proper way to serve tea, how to bow to a superior, how to politely address guests, things like that," I replied. "It's really funny that you would have to take a test on those things," Robert asked. "I've had to serve tea and bow to the headmaster," I quickly said. I wish he would stop asking about my schooling. I didn't think I would continue to lie, or I could continue to lie. "What kind of classes do you have at the academy?" I cringed inside as I tried to think of an answer. "I'm taught how to present myself in public, how to serve the wealthy, how to set a table for a meal, and how to behave like a perfect maid," I said, imagining what it would be like to really attend a school for etiquette. Robert's face fell, and his brow nodded when he heard my answer. "She's sending you off so you can be a maid for the rest of your life? You are so much smarter than that. Marie's suffocating you." His voice had risen quite a bit. "No, it's not like that," I replied. "I enjoy going to school. I asked her to go. It's a wonderful opportunity for me." "How can it be a good opportunity for you? You will be a maid for the rest of your life. Do you want to be Marie's slave forever?" Robert asked angrily, while I sipped tea. "Well, what will you do, Robert? Are you going to be Marie's horseboy for the rest of your life? How will you better yourself? Besides, Marie is my stepmother. Where else would I go?" I grabbed my shovel and stalked off to the other side of the barn to continue my work. He knew nothing about the Jelf Academy. He wouldn't understand that the Academy could release me from Marie's oppression. Robert didn't come after me and stopped talking. I felt bad for walking away and arguing with him, but I couldn't stand
Hey,
him.
Atkinson.
Yo, what's up?
You have someone lurking.
Oh, it's okay. It's just Gemma. It's alright.
Okay, great. Enjoy your lurk.
Enjoy your look, Gemma. I felt bad for walking away and arguing with him, but I couldn't stand him criticizing my choice. Once I was finished on my side of the barn, I hung my shovel against the wall. I was about to leave when Robert called my name. Jane, please don't leave yet. I'd like to talk to you, he said. I turned toward him and looked into his deep brown eyes. A shaft of light fell on his auburn hair, creating a nice shade. Sweat glistened on his chest where his shirt peeked open. Around his neck was a tarnished silver chain on which hung a ring that I never noticed before. I recalled Robert wearing the chain, but I had never seen the ring hanging from it. Jane, I would like to apologize. I just don't want Marie taking advantage of you, he said. Don't worry. She isn't, I replied. I choose to attend the Jelf Academy. Here there be monsters. Hello. How are you? What's happening in your side of the world? Hope you're doing well. Just as long as it's your choice. You are too smart a girl to be controlled by someone. I wouldn't want you to be unhappy later on. Honestly, you're the only person I can talk to, Robert explained. I was stunned by his words. Doing well, my friend, how are you? I think I'm starting to do better. My throat's still a little finicky, but it's it's much better of an improvement. Hey, if you want, I'm not sure what you're up to, but if you type in !puzzle, you can join in on the community puzzle game we have going right now. Yeah, thanks for asking. I hope you guys are doing good. Lost my place. Oh, there we are. It's okay, Robert. Thank you for your concern, I replied. Robert smiled at me. I assume I'll see you at the Christmas party. Marie wants me to help serve her guests, so I'll see more of the house. He rolled his eyes at his new assignment. I'm sure she'll work me to death more than you, I replied. I walked toward the door of the barn. Good night, Jane, Robert said, and I could have sworn he winked at me, but the lighting was too dim to tell. Bicep curls. Sweet. That's a neat little game. Yeah, it's not too bad. I think it's fun. It's kind of relaxing too. Alright, I will do the bicep curls as soon as we get to the bottom of this page. We're not too far. Good night, Robert, I replied, slipping out of the barn. The sun was beginning to fade as I trudged back across the field toward the manor. The snow made it so much harder to climb the hill. Would it be foolish to hope that Marie would let me rest? Sure enough, Marie was waiting for me in the kitchen. You look very tired. Would you like to take a rest? She asked with a sneer. I stood motionless, just staring at her. I knew she was teasing me. Marie would never offer me a break. I didn't know what to say to her. Would she be nicer if I didn't answer, or would she press me to answer? Uncertain of what to do, I remained silent. I wasn't going to beg for a break. Alright, we just turned the page, so I'm going to grab my weights and do those bicep curls. By the way, if anyone is curious, wants to read along, follow along, whatever it may be, there is the link for the current book that we are reading. Trying to find the puzzle piece that will connect the two right parts of the puzzle. Yeah, sometimes that can be the most haunting thing, to try and find that one piece that's missing. I feel ya. Been there myself. Alright. It's, what did you ask for? Bicep curls. Okay, this one's for you. Alright, thank you for that, Hicks. Appreciate it. Atkinson is doing a giveaway shortly. 2 tickets to the gun show. That's very funny. Thank you. And if anyone has been sitting for too long, feel free to get up and do a stretch or something like that, just to get the blood flow going. I'll trust that you did it. Pinky swear and all that. Alright, we are at the top of page 172. We've got 2 pages left before the end of the chapter, so I'll do that. We'll do the quick Stream Raiders, and then we'll do the next battle on Stream Raiders. No, I don't think you deserve a break. You're away at school, so you deserve to make up all the work you miss on a weekly basis. Marie laughed as she said this. I hung my head, knowing that this was the expected verdict, but I still didn't want to accept it. Marie slowly walked toward me. I could tell she was holding something, but it was close to her side in the folds of her dress. I froze, not knowing if she planned to hurt me. When she was finally standing in front of me, she stretched out her hand with the object, and I flinched. In her hand was a rag which she dropped at my feet. Get to work, and I might let you go to bed this time, Marie snickered. I knelt down to pick up the dirty rag at her feet. As I glanced up at her, Marie had a strange smile on her face. At my feet is where you belong. I knew that from the minute I saw you. Your father was foolish to think you were special. I know that he was wrong, Marie stated. Gotta run for now, but wanted to come say hi and enjoy the wonderful vibes. Hey, thanks for stopping by, sir. I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much. Your puzzle screen froze. Oh dear. Yeah, you gotta do it on a different device probably. I have a phone is probably not gonna work too well. Let me give you a quick shout out too, because if anyone in here hasn't seen the stream that Here There Be Monsters puts on, you're missing out. It's a husband and wife duo. It's a fantastic community. They're just great, wholesome, friendly people. So please, please, please go say hi to them when they're when they're on next time. You won't regret it. I tried to ignore her because I knew if I listened, I might not be able to control my anger. My father was a wonderful man, and Marie was just jealous that he loved me more. I picked up the rag and turned away from her to enter the kitchen. I have been searching for the last One Piece for 5 minutes now. Yeah, it's a thing. I'm going to refresh that actually just to make sure I'm looking at... Oh wait. Did I just screw up everything for you guys? Tell me I didn't do that. Oh no. I am so sorry. Oh. Wait, it's still going? I think I just screwed it up. Oh, my bad. I feel... Oh, that is so bad. I was just trying to see... Oh, shoot. Yep, I think I did. Copy. I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. I made it less pieces this time, so... that was... I feel terrible. Alright, hold on a second. I'm updating the automatic puzzle link. I am so sorry, guys. That was absolutely horrible. Yeah, it might still be going for you, but if you refreshed it or something, I have a feeling it would disappear. Okay, that's updated. I am so sorry. Shoot. Alright, lesson learned. I'm not gonna do that again. Okay, I'm just gonna keep reading. I'm just gonna stick to the things that I can't break, okay? That's a good idea. I picked up the rag and turned away from her to enter the kitchen. Unfortunately, Marie followed me. Your father was never right about anything. You, first of all, are not special. And your abnormality only makes you grotesque. My Emily is the smartest, and prettier than you. Or is smarter and prettier than you, Marie ranted on. I threw all of my energy into scrubbing the sink for the 100th time that day. I scrubbed until the sink was pristine, but Marie continued with her monologue. Your appearance isn't even special. Sure, your eyes are violet in color, but I think it signals you out as an abomination. Marie laughed as she watched me clean the sink. Huh, Richard believed your mother was special too. In fact, I'm sure she was just like you. An unintelligent abomination. My hands clenched around the wet rag. Marie sounded just like Betty Ann. My mother was a good woman, I said, turning to face her now. Please, I prayed, don't let my magic get the better of me. Oh? How would you know? Marie said. I know she was special, or else my father wouldn't have said so. He knew exactly what he was talking about. My mother accomplished great things in her life, and she gave it all up for him, I said, my voice rising. You are so funny, Jane. You actually believe your mother accomplished something great? Explain what that could possibly be. What would she have done? And what did she give up for your father? I clamped my mouth shut so I couldn't shout out the truth. I couldn't tell Marie about the pixie world and the real teachings of the Jelf Academy. Sure, Marie thought I was a freak because she knew about my special talents, but she didn't need to know there were others like me. Marie leaned back on the counter and smirked at my silence. Nothing to say now, Jane? I wouldn't make up lies because I certainly don't believe them. I wanted to call her a liar, but I didn't feel like dealing with the punishment. She had lied to my father when she said she would take care of me. Thankfully, Marie had nothing else to say because she swept out of the room. I stayed downstairs cleaning until the early hours of the morning before I decided to go up to the attic. Just before I fell asleep, I wished with all my heart that my Christmas break would go quickly and that I would be allowed back at the Jelf Academy. Alright. That was chapter 13. A tense moment right at the end there. Alright, this battle will be very quick. Underground, Prayson troops. What you got here? Tank and something I can't see. That's okay. There we go. This should be very quick. Pew pew pew. And done. Alright. Just collect these, get them out of the way, then we can move on to the next battle. We're a little light on numbers, so I'll keep it to the easier one. Ooh, skeleton warriors. You don't threaten me. We just need archers and warriors for this one, basically. So let's do this. We'll do a small line of tanks in the front. Get some archers. And some melee. And then if you need to place anything else, you can certainly do so. For quests and whatnot. Okay, how's everybody doing? For those of you doing the puzzle, if it's still the same puzzle and I didn't actually mess it up, you'll have to let me know. But it looks like you're starting on a brand new one. Again, I'm so sorry. I feel bad. I really do. I should not have messed with it. Oy. I wonder if I do this instead. I'm gonna enter the game as if it were me playing. And then that way, if I refresh the page, it doesn't mess up the entire freaking puzzle. Alright. Good. Okay. Moving on. Chapter 14 is, as you might guess, the Christmas party. So we'll do this chapter. I'll take a small stretch break, and then we'll move on to ATS, American Truck Simulator. I can drive a truck around, make some deliveries. Alright, Chapter 14, the Christmas party. Cold air rushed in the in the slotted window, rousing me from my sleep. I turned over, trying to keep some warmth against the chill. My body ached, not only from the cold, but from the strenuous labor I was put through in the last week. Today was the day of the Christmas party, and I didn't want to get up. I knew Marie would make me work very hard, and any error would be fatal. I rubbed my arms to shake off the chill and then sat up. Marie expected me to do another cleaning of the house this morning, help Ellen with dinner, take a quick bath, and then dress in my best rags. I was supposed to serve food and keep the trays full. Robert was supposed to help with the food and the serving of drinks. Standing from the mattress, I had a glimpse out the window at the light snow covering the ground. At least there was a beautiful scene of pure white snow on Christmas. I stretched to wake myself up and then headed down to do my morning chores. This morning I was lucky to be alone, which allowed me to use the quick complete charm. I needed to save as much energy as I could for the party tonight. I couldn't afford to mess up anything. When I entered the kitchen to help, Ellen was already hard at work. Marie had made up an elaborate menu that would have Ellen working all day. A pig was to be roasted for dinner, and Marie wanted small dishes for people to enjoy as they socialized. Marie also requested side dishes to go along with the pig. There was going to be a feast, and I would probably only get a crumb of it. "Hurry up, girl! Help me husk this corn!" Ellen yelled at me the moment she noticed I was in the kitchen. I hastily crossed the room to the table piled with corn. As I husked the corn, I watched Ellen prepare the huge pig. She injected the pig with juices to flavor it before putting it into the oven. Ellen then began preparing the other food for the feast. Her face was puffy and red, and her hair was coming undone from her bonnet. When I had finished husking the corn, I put it into a pot to boil. Unexpectedly, Marie showed up in the kitchen a few hours later. At first, I thought it was to oversee the work, but then she came toward me. "Jane, why are you still down here?" she asked. "You told me to help Ellen prepare the food," I replied. "I didn't tell you to be down here this long," Marie said, as if I should have known what time she wanted me to finish. I couldn't read minds. Yet. I wasn't even sure if it was possible. "Get upstairs and help Emily get ready," she commanded. I quickly left the kitchen and headed for Emily's room. When I entered Emily's room, I found her lounging in the tub, surrounded by bubbles. "It's about time you showed up. I feel like my water is getting colder by the second. Don't just stand there like an idiot. Get over here and wash my hair," Emily said to me. Strolling over to the tub, I grabbed a bottle of soap and put a drop of liquid in my hand. Personally, I thought Emily was more than capable of washing her own hair, but maybe she wasn't as smart as her mother thought. I began lathering her long, dark hair, as she just sat there with her eyes closed. Emily's water was by no means cold. It was nothing compared to the quick cold bath I would have had to take later. "I bet you don't even know how important this party is to me. You don't know a thing about parties or social events. Lots of rich people will be here tonight, and of course, I'm going to be the center of attention." I didn't know if Emily was trying to make me jealous, as she often did. I didn't put much stock in a person's money. A person's status shouldn't be measured by money or riches, but by who they were and how they acted. It was better if I just kept quiet and listened. Don't pull my hair while you're scrubbing. I need it to look beautiful tonight. So don't put knots in it, Emily snapped. Once I finished washing and rinsing Emily's hair, I helped her out of the tub. I'd like to wear the red dress tonight, so my pale skin and black hair will stand out. It's also the perfect color for a Christmas ball. Don't mess anything up tonight, or else I'll see to it that you are severely punished. One small error, and I'll make sure you never see that school of yours again, Emily threatened. Jeepers. Like mother, like daughter, I guess. I found the red dress she had requested while she toweled herself dry. Kneeling, I had the dress opened and Emily stepped into it. As I pulled the dress up and buttoned it, Emily made a face. Ouch! Watch what you're doing. You're pinching my skin. May someone hop on the puzzle and help me out? Are you there by yourself, sir? Yikes. Well, like I said, you gotta start with the borders. Don't worry about the insides. Just focus on what you can do. I'm struggling with finding a piece to connect the two big ones again. That's okay if you're struggling there, just move on to the bottom or the left side or right side. You'll find the pieces eventually. The puzzle is supposed to be relaxing, so if you find yourself not relaxed, take a break. Come back. No worries. There's no penalty here. It's just something to do while I read. Do you seriously not know how to do anything? I wonder every day how you got into any kind of school at all. She sneered. If you spend your life wondering how I got into school, I think you need a new hobby, Emily. This comment slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. Before I could react, Emily whirled around and slapped me across the face. How dare you talk to me that way? I will not tolerate your ignorance. If you ever...
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
Hey, Arinelle, I'm sure Jane would prefer if Emily would be quiet too. If you ever talk back to me again, I'll make sure the insides of this house will be all you'll ever see again. My face stung, but I was more shocked than physically hurt. Emily never used physical violence with me before. She normally lashed out with hurtful words instead. Now, you'll keep your mouth shut while you finish doing my hair, and you'll be on your best behavior tonight, Emily said harshly. I clasped my lips together, curling her jet black hair. It amazed me how much she sounded like Marie, but of course, they were exactly alike. When Emily was finished getting ready, I turned to leave. I had to get myself ready before anyone arrived. Marie would be livid if she thought I looked unclean in front of guests. Doing the lurk thing, that's no worry, no problem. I know you're at work, so try and enjoy work. Jane, Emily said, calling me back. I leaned back in the doorway to see her face. I'll make your life a living hell if something goes wrong tonight. That's a promise, not a threat, Emily stated, her gray eyes glowing wickedly in the fading sunlight. She looked so evil standing there that a chill went down my spine, and I didn't doubt her statement. Quickly, I rushed toward the attic. When I entered my room, I found that Ellen had left a tub of water for me to bathe. I stuck a finger in the water to find it cold. If I had to guess, Marie probably told her to leave it here earlier to make sure the water was frigid. What she didn't know was that I could heat the water with just my mind. I took off my dirty clothes and slipped into the newly heated bath. I rested my head against the tub, continuing to heat the water so that it would never cool off. I was tempted to press my luck and take longer getting ready, but then I remembered Emily's threats. I climbed out of the still warmed water and chose one of my clean servant-like dresses. It was grayish blue and had a white apron that tied in the back. My violet eyes reflected in the tub, and I noticed the red mark on my cheek. Emily's slap was clear and present. I didn't think she had hit me hard enough to leave a mark. My fingers gently stroked my cheek as I continued to gaze at my reflection. Instead of dwelling on it, I found my mother's comb and ran it through my now shining blonde hair. I held the comb against my chest and looked heavenward. Please, I silently prayed, protect me from Marie and her family, and let everything go smoothly tonight. I took one last look at my reflection, a face supposedly like my mother's, and then I headed down to the party. The kitchen was buzzing with activity when I entered, and Ellen was busy setting food on trays. Thank goodness you finally got down here, Ellen barked at me. Help me with these appetizer trays. I took the trays out of Ellen's hands and began arranging them nicely on the tables in the great hall. The other servants had done a wonderful job of decorating while I had been busy with the food. A large pine wreath hung on the door, decorated with pine cones and poinsettias. Along the banister, a pine garland covered with silver and gold tinsel, draped from the top to the bottom. In the right corner stood a very large and perfectly shaped Christmas tree that almost reached the high ceiling. It was decked out with shining red, gold, silver, and blue balls, small candles, and candy canes that flowed from top to bottom. On the very top stood an angel with widespread wings and very dark hair. She looked exactly like Emily, which I found incredibly ironic. Each window held a glowing candle, which, from the outside, probably made the house look cozy, warm, and loving. It was amazing how deceiving some things could be. In the hearths raged warm fires that gave the same cozy effect. Marie had truly outdone herself for this party. I headed back into the kitchen to retrieve more trays of food and to be given further instruction. I was put to work assembling hors d'oeuvres, which I was instructed to arrange in a certain way. I was so caught up in remembering what should be placed on each tray that I was startled when a deep voice spoke close to my ear. Looking up, surprised, my eyes came in contact with Robert. His soft auburn hair was pulled back, and his brown eyes sparkled in the candlelight. His radiating smile brought out dimples in his cheeks, and the freckles along his nose. He was well dressed, and I had never seen him so clean. His appearance was a shock. It seemed like my heart had stopped beating. Why did I still feel like I couldn't breathe?
Hey, Atkinson.
Yeah, what's up?
You have someone lurking.
That's okay, it's just Aranelle. She's working right now.
Okay, great. Enjoy your lurk.
Enjoy your lurk, Aranelle. What's our assignment for tonight? Right, let me try that again, because he says this in a deep voice. What's our assignment for tonight? He asked in a voice deeper than I remembered. It took me a moment to clear my head before answering. We're supposed to be carrying trays with drinks around for the guests. It's going to be tedious work, so we have to be careful. Marie will punish us greatly if we spill any of the drinks or break any of the glasses. Soon, it was time for the party to begin, and guests began arriving. Robert and I were sent out into the great hall with glasses filled to the brim on small rickety trays. I was very nervous, so I used a tiny bit of magic to keep the trays steady. I was very grateful that pixies didn't need charms for everything. I think someone would notice if I kept throwing dust everywhere. Marie stood at the door in her flowing green dress, with a lace collar that extended up her neck, greeting guests as they arrived. Her hair was pulled severely into a bun, making her look, in my opinion, like an evil witch. Emily was nowhere to be seen, but Preston was over at the food tables, probably on the verge of causing trouble. I continued to circle the room, occasionally passing Robert and returning to the kitchen for refills. The rooms were beginning to fill up, which made it harder to maneuver with a tray full of drinks. Glancing around, I noticed Marie's disgusted smirk as she greeted the next guest. I was shocked to see Mr. Wicker, judging by Marie's expression. I couldn't tell if he had been invited or not. I observed their exchange from across the room and was surprised when Marie stepped back and Mr. Wicker advanced into the room. He must have been invited because I couldn't see Marie allowing him to enter if he didn't have an invitation. Why had she invited him? After their dispute, I didn't think Marie would ever allow him in her house again. Ooh, that tea feels good. I glanced around the room for Robert, hoping he wouldn't be as startled as I was to see his former master. I noticed him across the room heading for the kitchen. Even though my tray was still full, I headed after him. Weaving through the crowd, I made it to the kitchen in time to catch Robert. "Robert," I said urgently, "I have to warn you that Mr. Wicker is here. You might run into him among the guests." All the color drained from Robert's face upon hearing this news. I wondered how Mr. Wicker could have been worse than Marie. "Robert, are you okay?" I asked as I gripped his arm. "Yes, Jane, I'm fine," he said, shaking his head. "I just never thought I'd see that man again. I thought I'd be free of him for the rest of my life." "You're free of him, Robert. I'm warning you so you can avoid him the best you can," I replied. Robert slowly nodded as he lifted his tray full of drinks and followed me out of the kitchen. This party had increased in size during our absence. People dressed in beautiful Christmas attire mingled around the great hall and were sampling appetizers in the ballroom. It had become harder to navigate the room. I found this task to be easier with magic, and every so often I glanced around to see how Robert was faring. All of a sudden, the noise level in the room dropped drastically. The guests focused their attention to the top of the grand staircase. I turned to see what had caused the interruption. "I'm back. Did something happen between the food preparing and now?" Let's see. Jane is now cleaned up and dressed in her, best option for serving food. Robert is the same way. They are mingling and serving drinks as the party has started. And Robert's old master, who he is free of, somehow is also at the party. And it looks now we're about to see Emily. What I saw looked like an angel, but I knew it was the devil in disguise. At the top of the stairs, Emily stood in her beautiful red dress. Her black hair looked so shiny underneath the light, and the sequins on her dress sparkled. She paused dramatically on the landing of the steps and looked out over the crowd. The audience sighed as if they were in the presence of greatness. Slowly, she descended the steps, appearing as if she were floating. I turned away and continued through the crowd as Emily disappeared at the bottom of the steps. The guests seemed to have gravitated toward her. I wondered what was so special about this Christmas, and why this party was so special to Emily. I saw Marie ascend the steps and turned to face her guests on the landing. She clinked her glass to get the room's attention. "Good evening, fine ladies and gentlemen. If you all head into the dining room, dinner will be served momentarily." At once, I reported to the kitchen to help Ellen. Marie wanted everything to be perfect, so I was nervous to be serving these many guests. The roasted pig was ready to be whisked onto the table when I arrived into the kitchen. "Where have you been?" Ellen barked. "Did you forget that you have to serve dinner?" "I didn't know the time Marie planned on serving dinner," I replied, placing the empty glasses down by the sink. "Stop your complaining and take this pig into the dining room. Come right back to help me put out the other dishes." The pig was on a large silver tray laid out perfectly with an apple stuffed into its mouth. I slid the tray toward the end of the table, but soon realized it was extremely heavy. This was nothing a little magic couldn't fix. I risked lifting the tray with my mind while Ellen's back was turned. I was able to get the tray to arm level and make it appear as if I were holding it with my hands. Cautiously, I headed into the dining room. The guests hadn't entered the room yet, so I had a few spare moments to place the pig on the table as the centerpiece. I was startled when the door was opened, and I almost lost my concentration. It would be earth-shattering if I were to drop the main entree. Thankfully, it was just Robert coming in to help. He saw me holding the pig and paused for a moment. "Jane," he said breathlessly. "You're amazing. That pig must weigh a ton. Yet you're holding it as if it were nothing. How do you manage?" "Oh, Gariki, thank you for hosting the stream, sir." "Are you just getting up, or aren't you going to work soon?" I'm so confused on the time difference. I never remember. Gets me every single time. "Oh, this isn't so heavy, Robert," I lied. "What do you mean by that?" "You cleaned up most of the barn in less than half an hour, and you somehow managed to lift that broken saddle into the loft without any help," he replied. I blushed at his compliments and the things he had noticed, but acted as if it didn't matter. "Those things weren't that hard. Anyone could have completed them." "I don't know, Jane, but one of these days I'm going to figure out your secret," Robert said, winking at me. Side note, part of me wonders if Robert already knows. Like he's got some sort of in with the pixie world. But that's just my assumption. Hopefully is, knowledge, if I'm on any kind of path, isn't the path of, I'm blanking now on the name of that group that tries to destroy and kill pixies. Hopefully he's not one of them. But we'll see. I swallowed the lump in my throat as he passed by. What if Robert found out what I could do? I had to be careful. Swiftly, I set the pig down on the table and went back to the kitchen to bring out the rest. Robert and I went back and forth bringing out the food while the guests filed into their seats. Emily sat at the head of the table like a queen, which was unusual. Marie always sat at the head of the table. Once the side dishes were on the table, it was time to bring out the salads and place them in front of each guest. Butterflies churned in my stomach because I had to serve Emily first. I hoped she wouldn't say something about me in front of her guests. Thankfully, Emily was in deep conversation with the handsome man seated to her right. His dark, hooded eyes never moved from her deceitfully angelic face. I could almost feel the heat radiating from his gaze. When all the salads were served, Robert and I retreated to the kitchen until we were summoned again. My stomach growled at the sight of all the delicious food laid out on the table. I wouldn't be allowed to have dinner until the party was over. Why do you think Marie threw this big party? Robert leaned close to whisper. I don't know. But what I do know is that Emily's the center of attention, I replied. That can't mean anything good, Robert said. When the guests were finished with their salads, Robert and I collected the plates and brought them to the kitchen to be washed. It was amazing that Emily hadn't thrown a negative comment in my direction. Ellen came out of the kitchen to carve and serve the roasted pig, which delighted the guests. When the dinner was over, everyone went back to the great hall and the ballroom to dance and socialize. Robert and I had much to clean up, and I was grateful that he was beside me. We had to carry all the plates and trays to the kitchen and make sure the dining room was spotless. Not only did we have to complete the cleanup, but we also had to get back to serve drinks to all the 30 guests. It was very nerve-wracking because I knew if the slightest thing went wrong, Marie would punish me. Even without the use of magic, the dining room dishes were finished in record time. Robert and I had refilled glasses and left the kitchen. I circled the room and Robert went in the other direction. Every so often we would cross paths and Robert would wink at me. I blushed deeply, hoping that he didn't notice. Why did my heart race every time I saw him in the crowded room? As I continued to circle the room, Mr. Wicker spotted me in the crowd. I tried to distance myself from him, but he came toward me to get a drink. I remember you, little maid. You were too curious for your own good. If you were mine, I would have been able to put you in your place, he said, looking at me, licking his lips. I tried to move away from him, but he continued speaking. I've thought about you for quite some time. You look familiar. I can't help but wonder if I put you in your place before. He grinned wickedly. Mr. Wicker reached out and caressed my arm with his ugly claw-like hand. I recoiled from his touch. "What's going on here?" a deep voice said. I turned around to see Robert standing there. It must have taken a lot of courage for him to stand up for me. "My old mute horseboy seems to have found his tongue. I knew I should have cut that out of you when I had the chance," Mr. Wicker said nastily. I could see Robert's face pale, but he kept his ground. "Come along, Jane. We have guests to serve, not animals," Robert replied. I was equally shocked and proud of his statement. Mr. Wicker started to open his mouth, but whatever he was about to say was cut off by the clinking of glass. Marie was back on the stair landing with an announcement. Next to her, Emily stood with the handsome young man from earlier. "I'm sure you all know my beautiful daughter, Emily, who I'd say is as lovely as a rose," Marie began. The only way Emily was like a rose was the sharpness of her thorns, not her beauty, I thought. "Sorry, just the hello, I'm listening and not by my phone." "No worries, Hicks. Just glad you're here and listening." "Tonight is a special night because there's an announcement to be made. I'll let Mr. Drake Doyle do the honors," Marie continued. The mysterious man nodded at Marie and stepped forward, taking Emily's hand. "What a beautiful woman you've become, Miss Emily. You are truly like a rose, but 10 times as lovely. It is my honor that I should have the privilege to be in the presence of such radiance. Without further ado, it seems only appropriate to ask for your hand in marriage." And with that said, he dropped to his knees and produced a ring from his suit jacket. I stood shocked as I watched the scene unfold. I never expected anything like this to happen. Emily didn't look shocked at all. I realized that this party had been planned for this specific reason. "Yes, I will accept your hand in marriage," Emily replied as the ring was slipped onto her finger. There was a commotion in the vicinity where I was standing. Mr. Wicker had pushed past Robert to get to where Emily was standing. Robert's tray tottered, and it was starting to fall from his hands. I couldn't let Robert get in trouble for this. I had to stop the glass from falling. Concentrating on Robert's tray, I was able to place the falling glasses on the floor without spilling a drop. Most of the attention in the room was on Mr. Wicker as he began to talk loudly about a promise that was made. Robert seemed confused as to what was going on, and Mr. Wicker paused his rant to turn around and stare at the glass on the floor. He shook his head and continued speaking. "Marie, you promised Emily to me. We had an agreement. That was months ago, and that agreement is now null. If you cannot conduct yourself in a civilized manner, I will have to ask you to leave. I have invited you here as a truce to settle our indifference. I ask that you remain civil," Marie said in the commanding tone of voice I recognized. Mr. Wicker quieted down and moved off in the direction of the coat closet. I couldn't tell if he was planning to leave or not. Robert bent down and picked up his tray, still looking confused. "Jane, did you see that?" he whispered. "How did my glasses fall right side up? None of them have even tipped over." "I don't know, Robert. It happened so fast." I lied again. I felt so ashamed lying to him. He gave me an odd look before turning before turning toward Emily on the stairs. She seemed to have forgotten the commotion. She was now staring intently at Mr. Doyle, as if he was the only one in the room. The expression on her face clearly looked like she had just won a very expensive prize. The audience, who had been stunned to silence, broke out in loud applause for the blissful couple. "I never thought she would decide on a man," Robert said under his breath. "So many suitors have come through that door." "I knew it was only a matter of time before she found the wealthiest man she could, especially with looks like his," I replied. Robert nodded at my statement, both of us sure Drake Doyle had some wealth behind his name. For what other reason would Emily be interested, besides his dark good looks? They stood, hands clasped, in front of the guests. Then they slowly descended to mingle and be offered congratulations. I watched with disdain, shrugged my shoulders at Robert, and then continued to circle the room. The party didn't last much longer after Drake Doyle's wonderful announcement. Guests began to leave one by one, all wishing their best and asking when the wedding was. It was sure to be a grander event than the Christmas party, and all the guests wanted an invitation. A headache was all I had to look forward to. When the last guest had left the party, it was time to clean up. I was prepared for a long night, and I knew I would get stuck with most of the cleaning. Sure enough, Marie began to approach me from across the room. "You're not allowed to go to bed until this place is clean. When I wake up tomorrow, I want it to look as if a party hadn't even taken place. Do you understand me, Jane? I don't care if you ask that stupid horse boy to help you. I just want it done," Marie demanded. "Yes, ma'am," I replied with my eyes downcast. I didn't want to suffer her wrath tonight. "Good. Then get to it," she said as she climbed the stairs. I watched her back disappear into the darkness, and then I slowly walked into the kitchen to do the work she had assigned. I should have suspected that I wouldn't get any sleep tonight. Robert was still in the kitchen when I entered. He smiled at me. I understood it was reflected his relief that the evening was over. "I'm glad it's over." Whoops, wrong person. "I'm glad it's over," I said, voicing his expression. "Yes, and it's back to the barn for me. I just stayed to say good night," Robert replied. "Okay, Robert. Good night." I did want him to go so he wouldn't be stuck helping me clean. Without Robert around, I could clean the house faster. But that didn't mean I really wanted him to go. I wish I could share my secret with him. Robert turned to leave through the back door, but then paused and turned around. "Marie wants you to clean up the house before going to bed, doesn't she?" I looked down at the ground and sighed a quiet yes. Robert walked toward me and grabbed my hand. "Let me stay to help you." "No, Robert, that's not fair. Now go and get a good night's sleep. Marie asked me, not you," I protested. "Let me help you. I'm making it my problem now. Plus, with the two of us working, we can get things done faster. If only he knew things would get done faster without him." Robert continued to look at me intently, and I knew he wouldn't give up. "Fine. You can help me if you insist on it," I replied. and I felt Robert squeeze my hand. Good. I'm glad you didn't fight me. Robert and I began in the dining room, since Ellen had taken care of the kitchen. We changed the tablecloth and put away the Christmas one. I made sure that the beautiful china dishes were stacked neatly in the cabinet, and that everything was in its proper place. Robert was a big help with cleaning the floor. By using 2 mops, we did finish in good time. I dumped the dirty water and added clean water to the bucket so we could mop the great hall and ballroom. The great hall and ballroom area were a bigger mess, since that was where the majority of the guests socialized. Crumbs had fallen, decorations littered the floor, and I heaved a sigh when I took it all in. "Aren't you glad I'm here?" Robert asked, as we stood side by side surveying what needed to be done. I nodded, and then began picking up fallen decorations. For being rich and sophisticated, the mess that the guests left was inexcusable. You would think that people who had money and an education would know better than to make a mess. Alas, cleaning and serving were the only things people like Robert and me were good for. It was getting later and later, and I could feel my body slowing down. Robert looked like he was about to fall over, but kept up the work at my side. We spoke very little to save energy. After we mopped and swept the floor, I insisted on polishing it, because I knew it was what Maria expected. Robert looked close to protesting, but he didn't say anything and just went along with my instructions. When we were finally finished, it had to be close to sunrise. Robert and I collapsed onto the floor for just a moment of rest. "Thank you for helping me. You didn't have to," I said, breaking the silence. "I helped you because I wanted to," Robert replied. "Will you walk me to the back door?" "Yes. Give me just a moment," I answered. I wanted to sit a second longer. Robert stood before me and held out his hand to pull me up. I placed my hand in his, and he pulled me to my feet. I was surprised by his strength, because he hadn't used much effort. "Look," he said, pointing toward the ceiling. "Mistletoe." We were standing under the doorframe. I blushed as I joined his gaze skyward. Mistletoe hung above our heads on the doorframe. I knew my face was bright red, and I looked down at my hands. Robert hesitated, and I didn't know what he was going to do. Was he going to kiss me? It seemed like 5 minutes had passed when finally, Robert just lifted my hand to his lips and kissed it. "Good night, Jane. I'll see you tomorrow," he said smoothly. He slipped across the great hall and down the hallway toward the kitchen before I could even mumble goodbye. It had happened so fast that I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I lightly touched the spot on my hand where his lips had been, confused as to how Robert felt about me. I slowly climbed the steps, dreading the remainder of my Christmas holiday. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes Chapter 14. There we go. I hope you have enjoyed it. Much to do for Jane and Robert. Much had done. Busy bees they were. Yes. Alright, let's do our quick battle here. What do we got? We're just gonna curse. And let's go. After this, I'm going to take a small couple-minute break so I can go to the bathroom, stretch a little bit, and then we're going to switch over to ATS, American Truck Simulator. So feel free to stay tuned. The puzzle will still be going in the background if you want to keep doing it. Exclamation point puzzle. There we go. And as always, here is the link to the book. And also, a quick shout out to my main man, Guriki, one of my very helpful mods, and also to my other great mod who is currently having to work right now. Can we all give her a sigh? Aranel Kendi and Guriki, both fantastic people. Barbarian skulls for Guriki. Good job. Alright. Like I said, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with American Truck Simulator.